Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, your favorite Giants podcast. I'm your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan, and we are back for another Pens and Pencils predictions episode, a PPP, if you will. Just kidding. Not much in the way of Giants OTA news. I think there was like a bogus article about Giants fans wishing they had Shadur Sanders because of how bad Jackson Darts looked at OTAs. I think we all agree that article came from nowhere credible whatsoever. It's like the exact opposite of everything else that we've heard.
Who's the guy on Twitter? The one who always has the fake art stories? Was it from him?
No, it wasn't. Oh my God. How am I blanking on his name now? Wes Steinberg.
Yeah, Wesley Steinberg. Yeah, that sounds like a Wesley Steinberg special, actually. But
yeah,
but
not much in the realm of Giants world right now. We're heading towards minicamp, and then we have some time off before training camp.
I would have a request for the New York Giants and whoever runs their app that I don't need more alerts this week when there's nothing happening than I get on a game week. I must have had 6 alerts today from the app talking about utter nonsense. Like, if you need to tell me something that I need to be alerted, it better be something important. It better be an injury update. It better be a signing. It better be something. You know, I kept getting buzzed. I'm looking down and it's the Giant thing. Like, oh, what happened? And it's like, oh, here's video of Brian Dable picking his nose or something stupid. So they need to relax on the updates. This is a slow time of year. You know,
this is probably their highest engagement year for like the moment of the year for like the last 7 years running is like, oh, let's hit him from the draft until the end of training camp, and then we'll just kind of fold off into the darkness.
Hope springs eternal right now. Yeah.
Speaking of injury, there was a little something. I think Malik Neighbors. Was there something with his ankle or something? I don't know. Also, I was ragging on him for the toe thing. I will retract that. I've been meaning to do this for a couple episodes now. It's now like been said several times. That toe injury actually lingers back to college. So the surgery was to correct, I guess, like the root cause of that or whatever. But nevertheless, this was not like, I was kind of connecting to just like this toe injury, this broken toe happened like 12 weeks ago, 15 weeks ago. What are we still doing here? But I understand now. Backing off on that one.
Well, when was the actual surgery?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't surgery. I don't know. But whatever. That toe injury, I guess, is rooted back in his college days. But I'm sure everything happened after the season because we were saying that he was like playing.
I hope it happened immediately after the season. Because you hear too many stories of players who are like, they start through off season and it's like, well, they elected to have the surgery in March or April. And it's like, it would be nice to have those 4 months of recovery and rehab before the season, not to impact your, getting ready for the season. But I'm ultimately not worried about him at all. So.
Yeah, I agree. This is something minor and it's not that serious. I would like to see him, running around out there, but this is whatever, excusable or whatever. Anyway,
if we didn't have, the only reason I would actually care if we had some consistency with the quarterback from last year, or the year before. It's a new quarterback. You're trying to get a little bit of chemistry. It'd be a nice to have, not a need to have.
Interesting. Yeah. You think it's more nice to have, not need to have for a new quarterback?
You're trying to get a rapport with him. You're trying to, get those snaps, get those reps, so you can, Russell can see, oh, he likes to do this on his
right. It's actually kind of a big deal to not be there right now. I mean, not a big deal, but it's a bigger deal rather than if you have like 3 years with the same quarterback, you already know each other.
Right. But it's also a bigger deal missing more organized things than to this point what they were doing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
this is like the least important thing for them to miss is right now.
Right. We're not going to look back in the 2025 season if Russell Wilson wasn't very good or Malik Neighbors had wasn't very good. It's like, well, if they had those extra reps in May, that might have changed things. Yeah. I don't think that's good.
No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, Giants are heading forward towards mini camp, and then some time off before training camp in August. So I guess we can just kind of dive right into the pens and pencils, unless there's some other sports thing you got on your mind.
Well, this is one of those dark days when it's never a good day when your biggest rival in any sport's about to win a championship. So, those scumbag Florida Panthers are going to win a title tonight. So, you know, him and Brad Marchand, who could eat a fat one for me. Screw them.
There's an entire period for Edmonton to mount an insane comeback.
Yeah, that'd be real nice. But for a bandwagon franchise, fan base and everything, go screw yourselves. Go have your little parade in the parking lot of the dumb mall across the street from your crappy arena. So fuck off.
Wow. What city do they play in? I actually don't even know this.
They actually play in Sunrise. It's a suburb. If you're coming across Alligator Alley, it's like the first suburb once you get out of the Everglades. It's a bit of a hike even just to Fort Lauderdale, and it's a country mile to get to Miami. And it's just it's gross. South Florida it may be the worst spot in the country next to Los Angeles. It is. I can't stand it down there. It's people. It's like half of Long Island moved down there, and people who moved down there, they take their New York accents and they make them thicker. They take their attitudes and be more attitudey. It's just a cesspool shithole. So,
all right, love
there
it.
you go.
It's just,
you asked.
We came here to dunk on South Florida.
Yeah, of course. I don't even look. I have no love lost for where I'm from, in the part of Florida I'm from. But it's like comparing living in New York City to Buffalo. They're two completely different states.
Yeah,
they just happen to be in the same state, but they're completely different cultures, personalities, topography, everything. So they can, you ever see the old Bugs Bunny cartoon where Bugs like sawing off Florida and it floats away?
Yeah.
They could do that everything south of the Everglades for me. I think something that state probably could go as well, but that's another thing.
For what it's worth, I've always felt that there's that hardcore Buffalo attitude. Sometimes there's this is real New York. New York City is not really New York. This is New York. It's like you guys are closer to being like Pennsylvania or Canada than you are New York.
That is Big Ten territory. That is Midwest. I mean,
you are definitely the twang is like what you'd hear in Ohio. It's not northeastern at all. Like New York to me is closer to being New Englandy, on the fringes of being New Englandy.
There's three parts of New York. There's everything south of Westchester, which is New York City and Long that Island, culture.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Everything going up is New England, and everything west, that's the Midwest.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to the Bills game a couple of years ago, and they're salt of the earth people, super nice, super friendly. Like, oh look, thanks for coming, and they were it's not what you think about Bills fans being
maniacs and
no, yeah, they're good people, and they it feels like it's could be like Ohio or Indiana.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you've ever seen Tommy Boy, the fictional town, or maybe it's a real town, I don't know, but the town that the factory's based in Tommy Boy, where they're all just oh hello, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. It really is like that out there. Anyway,
yeah, for sure.
We digress. The Giants are playing Week 10, Week 11, and Week 12 for this episode. We're gonna head into this. This is our start into the November portion of the season. Actually, I think we ended in November last episode with Week 9. But we are away. It is November 9th. It is a Sunday. It is 1 o'clock, and we are in Chicago, one of the last games that we'll be playing at Soldier Field before they move either right next door to a spot or out of the city.
Well, they don't even have a plan yet. They're going to be there for quite a while. We'll be there. We'll probably play there at least 2-3 more times.
You think so?
Yeah, there's no plan.
Yeah, I understand that, but after a plan, I mean, once ground breaks, we're probably talking about 2 years, right?
2-3 years. Yeah. I don't think they'll be in any time before.
Well, I said one of the last.
I guess. I guess so. But before we get into the Bears game, can you a quick recap of what our prediction records are at this point?
Oh, I mean, I lost you somewhere along the way. I'm at I think I'm 4-5 with the
I
Giants.
feel
That they've beaten Washington, Dallas, New Orleans, and San Francisco for me.
I think I'm around 4-5 also, but I feel like I'm a little more optimistic about that 4-5 than, oh, we're only 4-5.
Well,
So
you and I had different trajectories. So, like, I started out hotter than you. I had us with like 2 straight upset wins because I actually do feel like those are beatable teams. Uh,
correct.
and then I have us diving, whereas you had us starting off bad and then kind of rising up. So we're kind of on separate
Yeah,
pathways, even though we're at the intersection point of being the same record. So
gotcha.
we're hovering around 500. Which let's start here without actually looking at the other teams in the conference's schedules. Where do you think that we're kind of ranking around 4-5? Like, what's the feeling of us around week 10? Which is crazy to say at this point in the NFL history. That's like the midway point of the season.
I will say my, you know, pens and pencil prediction. We are in last place, but the division is thought of as the best division in football this year. So just because if we're 4-5 and we're in last, I don't think that's saying, well, we're horrible and we're thought of. I think it's like, wow, this division is good because even the Giants are 4-5 and showing signs of life.
That's okay. That's interesting. I mean, I think that we are kind of like the forgotten team at this point, but that's still like mathematically hanging around. I think like most of the NFC is looking past us. They know who the front runners are at this point, and like there's a lot of focus on like I don't know, like the mid level teams, and the Giants are kind of lurking behind that. Um, and
I,
I think they're
I,
more the talked about team at this point.
because I predicted that I thought Washington had the potential to have that clapback year a little bit, but I think they're still going to be thought of greater than what their record actually might be. I think
Right.
I think there's a perception of Washington as, wow, this team, look out, they're the next team. It's going to be great, and if they have a step back this year, it's not going to impact their perception of what they are. Dallas, every time they get a first down, people think they're going to the Super Bowl, which by the way was pretty funny. I think I sent you something a day or so ago with everything going on in sports right now. We have 2 sets of finals and all this. ESPN was talking about what is Dak Prescott's legacy right now. So they're always going to be talked about in discussion and overrated, or overly sky is falling with them. And Philly's Philly. So I think this division this year is going to be thought of as the best division in football by this point.
That's
Whether it is or
interesting.
isn't, whether it is or isn't, will be up for debate. But I think perception wise,
In football or in the NFC?
the NFC.
Okay. Okay. I mean what you're describing I think sounds like the way we were looking at the NFC South last year where it's like I guess not. I mean that was probably looked at as like the worst division in the conference. But like
Yes.
everybody was sort of neck and neck for like a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like I think that Tampa Bay was a pretty strong team to rise out of there. New Orleans is New Orleans, but and Carolina is kind of a mess. But for some reason, they all kind of like stunt. I don't know. I'm not really
They all
sure.
kind of beat each other, sort of. They all kind of
Yeah,
know each other really well, and they all kind of beat each other.
yeah,
Um,
maybe not. But yeah, so that's interesting. I think the Giants are kind of the untalked about team at this point. And to your point, like with the perception versus reality, with records at this point versus how people are perceiving teams. I mean, everything is still tied to what you think you know, not what is right before you. Because I mean, what's right before you, you make excuses for, but you don't make excuses for the past, right? So the Washington still has Jaden Daniels. You know what I mean? They still have Dan Quinn's defense. So I'm sure that maybe they're losing games, maybe they're giving up tons of yards on the ground or something, and that's why they're losing games. But Dan Quinn's defense is getting these turnovers, and Jaden Daniels still has these highlight plays where he's doing incredible things. So they're a good team that's not playing with a great record right now, whereas the Giants are middling along. And they knocked off. Okay, so they beat Washington that one time. Okay, I get it. And they beat Dallas. Well, Dallas isn't very good. And the Niners, maybe they're slipping. And so you just make these things because we're the ones hyper focused on the Giants. Everyone else is just hanging to what they know. The Giants have been horrible for the last 5 years.
And let's be very honest, if the Giants are the team that's not really being talked about that much nationally, that's a win for the Giants, because they've been talked about a lot for the last 5 years, but in a very negative light and as a laughing stock and as, jokes or comedians. So if they're kind of flying under the radar this year at 4-5, 5-4, maybe another game above or below 500, that to me is a win, because at least, it's like the big cruise ship doesn't turn on a dime and has to kind of slowly turn. That's kind of what perception is going to be about this Giant team, unless they come out of the box like 7-2. Like, holy shit, look at this team, which I think we both agree is probably not going to happen.
Yeah, that would be cool. But you know what? We would have said that same agreement in 2022. Mm-hmm. Just throwing that, and this is not me being overly optimist or anything like that. Just my point is about the perception versus reality is that we're always stuck with what we know. It's the same as BCS rankings for preseason. You know what I mean? Guys coming in ranked 1, and it's just because they were good last year. Never mind the fact that they have 30 seniors lead the team. You know what I mean? So that's a natural thing. So there's always surprises, and that's why I say Washington might go down, and you don't know.
Every single Giant fan who's either listening to this show or getting ready for the season in their own way, however they're doing it, has in their head Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawk. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody is coming into the season with the thought in their head of Russell Wilson benched Pittsburgh Steeler. So that's a lot to your point of the perceptions and the baggage you bring into and the lens you're watching things through.
Was he benched?
Didn't they bench him at the end?
Oh, they might have at the end. Yeah, maybe. I stopped paying attention to Pittsburgh towards the end of the season last year.
I thought he was benched.
You probably right. I'm not here to argue with you. I thought you meant at the beginning of the season, but he started hurt. That's why Justin Fields started.
Let me look at that. Maybe I said that wrong, but still. But the point is, okay.
No, I know what you mean.
The perception is certainly not of the Steeler. It's definitely going to be of 2 teams earlier than that when he was, a star in this league.
So speaking of a win for the Giants here, are the Giants going to win this game against the Chicago Bears at week 10? Like with your 4-5 record, what happens here?
Giants go into Chicago and they win, Grump. How about that? I think that I think this team has a level of stability at this point that we're really looking for things like, can you go on the road and beat what I think is not a very good team? And I think they got enough of their shit in order that I think they go into Chicago. I think I had them beating San Francisco last week, at home, a perception-wise big win, although we both think that the 49ers could be pretty bad, based upon what their previous record is. But I think they go into Chicago, and this is a game probably for the last 5 or 6 years they probably lose, and you're like, that was embarrassing. But I think we've turned enough of a corner that I think we go into Chicago and we actually win. I think we cause a lot of problems with the quarterback. I think this is where we're really going to see our pass rush take advantage of somebody. And this might be the game where we see the most highlights from this pass rush.
Man, you stole that one right out of my mouth. I don't think the Bears are going to be very good this year, but I do sort of like what they've done. I mean, like Caleb Williams is I don't want to say like a big question mark. Like he's so outstandingly talented. I don't want to say it like that, but he's young. You don't know what he's going to pen. Yeah, exactly. There is a little bit, at least a little bit of head casiness with him. A little bit.
Just a bit of quirk in him. He's got some quirk in him.
There's a bit of ego, and that may not end up being a bad personality trait, but it's certainly a personality trait, I think. But nevertheless, if he pans out, I like what they're building in terms of weaponry around him. I like Luther Burden a lot. I don't know if they're going to be able to control his personality either, but Cole Kmet and Roma Dunze, DeAndre Swift, I kind of like it. Right now, the offensive line doesn't look like my favorite thing.
Right.
And I agree with you. I think that this is going to be. I don't know what record Chicago is going to have walking into this game, but I do like what they're doing. I think they're going to have some explosive plays, big national highlights. Like it's a shame that ESPN has gone down the toilet and all the way to Australia by now. But so young people may not even get this. But when you turn on Sports Center and it's just the highlights and you watch it on repeat 3 times in a row because it's like the best thing on TV. There's a lot of those top 10 plays that are going to be Caleb Williams this year. But I think this game, he's going to get frustrated because they're just going to come after him. And
I'll make a
yeah,
I'll make a bold prediction about this game.
Uh-huh.
Somebody on the Giants defensive line will be NFC Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just see this game as
Take
like
your
one of
pick.
those things where like he gets sacked like a bunch in the first half, and then by the end, I mean, there's just plays where Dexter Lawrence is overwhelming people. You know what I mean? And I just see him getting frustrated, and I think the Giants come out here, and even though they don't play so well on offense in this game, I think that it never feels like there's a doubt the Giants win this game. This is a win in pen for me.
I have it as a win in pencil because I don't trust this team to be good enough yet to say, oh, they're going to win this game on the road, even if it's a bad team. But I'm comfortable putting it with a solid number 2 pencil.
I like that. Number 2s aren't my favorite. Ticonderoga pencils.
Well, yeah, got it. If you're taking your SATs, you better use a number 2 pencil, or else you're going to have to end up going to Florida State instead.
All right, so then week 11, then the Giants stay in the NFC East, but the NFC North, but they come home to the East where they host the Green Bay Packers on November 16th. That's Sunday at 1:00, MetLife Stadium in November. The air conditioner. What are your thoughts, Cranky fan?
The air conditioner. I hope it would be nice if in mid-November we had an air conditioner on. It's probably going to be cold and crappy. Green Bay. Okay, I think we're starting to feel good about ourselves. This Giants team. I think this is where we don't feel good about ourselves. I think I have this as a loss in pen. I just don't think we're good enough to be consistent to say, okay, we beat some bad teams. We got a good team coming in. I'm doing a lot of my pens and pencils this year on flow. I think necessarily than matchup at this point. But I feel like this one's a loss. Green Bay brings a lot of away fans. I think there's going to be, even though the Giants are showing signs of life this year, I think there's going to be a lot of green and yellow in the stadium. We can have a Jordan Love discussion if you want about how good he actually is as a quarterback. But I don't think payback matters from the Tommy DeVito game, but I think this is a game they come in here and I think they win. So I'm going to have this as a loss in pencil.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to have the full Jordan Love talk here.
Okay.
But because I mean, we're going to have a preview, right? And I'd like to, you know what I mean? So this game will actually happen. So but we were kind of talking before about the NFC North and how good they were last year and how it's kind of a bit of a question mark this year. And we'll get into that, I guess, whatever. But, I mean, the Minnesota one's an obvious question mark. The obvious question mark with Detroit, which we'll talk about later, is Ben Johnson leaving. Chicago's an obvious question mark because they haven't been good, so it's not like they're going to, are they going to get worse? No. I mean, like, are they going to be good? Maybe. And for me, the Packers, I mean, this is just sort of a mid-roster. I like, and part of it has to do with how good the perception of Jordan Love is. And it does feel a little bit like some in the media just like want to keep this Packers torch being passed down from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. And it always feels like even when you're saying that, like there's this like parentheses, like there's this Bart Starr super long reach torch pass to Brett Favre. Like he's always like included. He shows up at shit, but no one talks about the in between years between Bart Starr and Brett Favre. So I mean, it just feels a little bit like they're trying to touch this because they have a quarterback that they signed to a second contract and he's not bad. But like, how good is he really? I don't know. It does feel like the perception of him is inflated at least a little bit. But I'm not going to sit here after years of watching Daniel Jones and tell you that Jordan Love is not good.
Well, that's a pretty low bar.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to play the game of extremes here. I actually hate when people do that.
I think he's a solid NFL starter.
Right.
That doesn't mean you don't have to be every solid starter doesn't have to be great. Doesn't have to be a franchise guy. Doesn't have to be the heir apparent to some legacy. It's just he's a solid starter. I think that, probably 2/3 of the league wishes he was their starter, but I don't think any of the top third wish he was the starter. I think that might be a good way to define him.
So I mean, there's that, but I mean, this is a good roster. I mean, like Josh Jacobs is good. Jaden Reed, I loved. Christian Watson, I like. Matthew Golden, I like. Romeo Dubs, has proven himself. Tucker Kraft, good. I liked Luke Musgrave. I think this is a talented offense. They're going to score points. The big question mark, really, I mean, outside of like, whatever we just talked about, but like getting rid of Jair Alexander on what is just doesn't look like a very scary defense to me. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. I'm not like super into trying to find out all the reasons why this is happening, but this is not a very talented looking defense, and there's time, right? So like I don't know. There's still time for camp signings, and then there's cut down day signings, and maybe this is a whole other conversation because other veteran corners get cut and they can sign them on the cheap or something. But
I think I'm very happy this is a 1:00 game. Because I have a feeling that this is a type of game that they would stick on even a Sunday night because it's Giants Packers. And
yeah, I agree.
I feel like, it's only one time zone they're coming over here. It feels like where it's kind of positioned. Maybe this is a game you're slightly looking ahead to. Maybe if you're Green Bay.
Okay.
It does maybe, but I just. Again, I'm looking more inward at us and thinking, are we good enough to be consistent to come off some road wins and come up with it, beating some bad teams and being a team that's probably better than them. I just don't think so right now.
No, I mean, I look at this team and I'm questioning its strength, but especially on defense. But on the same token, this just feels like a game that the Giants are going to lose. I mean, I don't think that they're going to be able to stop Jordan Love at all. I think that the receivers are going to be running amok. I think that they're going to have a pretty good beat on what we're doing defensively early, that they're going to be able to come out here with some scripted drives and some really good, well-designed plays to talented skill players and get enough points early on that we just can't catch up. And, I feel adamant about that. This is a loss in pen. Despite everything I said about the Packers roster, etc., this is a game that the Giants, I think, could win. But everything about the flow of this season and the way I've got this going, and it's a loss in pen to me. It just feels bad.
Yeah, I think this is the game also where people start getting pissed off at the coaches and the GM and the whole thing of like, well, come on already, where are we? And it's like an overreaction. But Green Bay is a pretty decent team. It's not
Absolutely.
it's not like if Chicago came in here and beat us, that's when you can start having those, Jesus, what happened? But Green Bay's pretty good, so it's not the end of the world. It's not an indictment on anything if they lose this game, especially if they've won a couple previously to that where you're feeling good about yourself. These are just growing pains games where you're just not good enough to be consistent to assume you're winning this one and this one, even if you're fighting above your weight class.
I don't know. I mean, I also, yeah. It everything you said makes sense and you're right, but just in general, it doesn't feel good. It's one of those games that just doesn't feel right in the schedule. Just looking at it, I'm like, that's a loss. I don't know what it is. I stare at it, I'm like, it's not happening. And
That's right. I mean, that's the whole point of pens and pencils is we're going purely with gut right at this
well, I
moment.
mean,
So
especially with like the flow of everything I said, you get this upset win against the Niners, and you play the Bears, and I'm talking about how we're frustrating the shit out of Caleb Williams. This just feels like one of those things where as soon as the Giants start to gain a little bit of national momentum, they go out
totally,
there and they're like bring everybody back to stinky reality in the middle of a stinky
totally,
swamp. That's what I mean. Like it
totally.
just looks like shit. Speaking of, the Giants are playing the Detroit Lions week 12 Sunday at 1 o'clock, staying with the NFC North, staying in the NFC North, going up to Detroit, where they will play the Lions on November 23rd, the greatest of all November days, because it is my birthday. And how do the Giants perform on my birthday, Cranky fan?
Well, if it was Christmas, you would probably get some coal in your stocking. So I don't know what what the equivalent is for a birthday present, but you know, it sucks. I think there's a bit of a misconception that the Lions overlook. They treat Thanksgiving like it's their Super Bowl, and I think their record in Super Bowl in Thanksgiving games is not overly fantastic. And now that the fact that they're good, I don't think they're worrying so much about, well, this is our one time we're going to be on national TV and people are watching us and they're going to, you know, maybe the game before kind of have one eye looking towards Thursday. I don't think that's the case anymore because they're legitimately good and they're legitimately a Super Bowl contending team. Um, I don't really see any way we're going into Detroit and winning. I don't. I did this to me is a loss in pen, and that's kind of okay because, like I said, I think Detroit is a Super Bowl contender for sure. Um, Jared Goff could throw all over us in a game like that. I think they have a really really good coach, and I just think we're going to probably get killed. And at least we don't have to worry about watching the Giants on Thanksgiving again like last year.
There's something to be said about what the future for Jared Goff is going to be. This is a quarterback that I've always felt was pretty mid, even for a first pick. Just never, no, just didn't have it for me. Where I was like, yeah, he's good. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Alex Smith.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. In that same regard, right? And that's sort of what he was in LA. And it really took like Ben Johnson, Detroit Lions, to get it out of him. Now he's gone, right? And at the same time, Jared Goff also, Ben Johnson got a lot out of Jared Goff, but it doesn't feel like Jared Goff took like a next step or anything. Like it still felt like when Detroit fell apart, Jared Goff didn't really. Maybe this is just my perception. Maybe I'm not thinking of something that happened, but never felt like Jared Goff lifted them out of holes. When the Lions fell apart, they fell apart around Jared Goff, right? Like, which is fine. So he's just a good quarterback. My point is that now he's 30. He's lost Ben Johnson. What happens? And there's a lot to be said about what the future could be for Jared Goff and the Lions, because this is a excellent team with an excellent coach. Their fans are probably the most rabid they've been since Barry Sanders was in uniform.
I think there are more now than even back then in the Barry Sanders.
Actually, yeah, I would say probably closer to Stafford and Calvin Johnson days. They were a better team than when Barry Sanders was there. But you get my point. I mean, like this is like the right time, and I don't think that Detroit, if Jared Goff flounders, I don't think that they're going to hesitate for too long to make a switch. And I don't mean in the middle of the year. I mean just like in the future of this organization. He has a down year, and I think they are going to pull the trigger and just move on.
Well, they got some. I'm looking at his contract right now. He is signed through 2028. There's an out in 2028, but a $14 million cap hit after 2027. So the cap hit the dead cap, if they got rid of him after this year, would be 63 million, and then the year after 29 million. So
Well, I mean, by get rid of, I don't necessarily mean cut, but I mean like they will. But moving on, I mean like Atlanta drafted Michael Penix while making a move for Kirk Cousins. You know what I mean? Like you can just draft a quarterback and just let Jared Goff's contract die. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. I
What do you
guess
mean? It's actually
I'm
the
not,
perfect way to do it. I mean,
but I'm not as I'm not as I'm not. I don't see the end for Jared Goff as closely, I think, as you do. I mean, you're
I'm
saying,
not.
well, now he's 30. That doesn't mean anything to me. 30 is not. I mean, if he was 34, 35, yeah, I would certainly think of that. But 30 to me is like kind of the quarterback sweet spot right now.
No, but he's 30 now, is what I'm saying, and I'm talking
Mhm.
about the future. I don't mean at the end of 2025. I just mean the future, like when it happens. So listen, the Lions have such a talented roster that I think this year he's going to be fine anyway. You know, you're talking about
Mhm.
Jahmyr
Mhm.
Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, even Khalif Raymond. I liked Isaac Tisla. I think he's going to be that annoying guy on third down, just
Right.
moves
Who
chains.
destroys us? Who destroys
Jameis,
us?
yeah,
Right. Mhm.
you still have Sam Laporta, Jamison Williams, Tim Patrick too. I mean, they have a solid offensive line in front of him, right? You just name them: Penny Sewell and Christian Mahogany, Taylor Decker. This is a good team, and I think that this year Jared Goff is going to be fine. I do think without Ben Johnson, the future for him is going to get murky beyond this year. And I think that when it hits, whether that's 2026 or 2027, they will pull the trigger and move on from him. So if it hits in the middle of 2026, they will, my prediction is they will draft a quarterback in 2027 or make another move some other way to kind of just make that transition happen. I don't think that they're going to sit around and wait for Jared Goff to take an imaginary leap after 30. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to get better, is what I'm saying, by turning 30. Yes, it's the sweet spot, but I mean, guys don't get better
Yeah.
at 30. They get smarter, maybe.
Yeah, but I think he's at a level. I think he's a level now that if he plays at his sweet spot for the next couple of years, I think they'll be fine.
I just don't think he will. I
Hmm.
with the offensive coordinator change, I don't think that he's going to.
Who's their coordinator now?
I don't remember. That's not really my
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
I mean, this
I
is a
mean,
guy who worked with Sean McVay and couldn't win there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
but
I feel
so
like we're over talking
that,
this. This has gone beyond.
yeah,
It's okay that we don't agree on this, dude. It's
yeah.
it's, it's all right. It
No,
doesn't
no,
need
no.
to be rehashed to
I think we're
death.
I think we're putting a little too much on the quarterback for why they didn't win in LA, but that's okay. But the point is that they are really good right now, and really, this is all we're worrying about is right now. And
Yeah,
we have
exactly.
next
So
to we
that
have next
that
no
being
chance to beat.
said, yeah, no, okay. So if I can, so yeah, I don't think the Giants win this game.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if the cracks of like the offensive coordinator Jared Goff thing start showing themselves in 2025. It won't be this game. There's no chance in hell we're beating this team. This is such a talented team. Such a talented team with a really good motivating head coach. But I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl this year. And I was saying it last year. So,
You did, you did. Uh, I haven't thought about it yet. I have. They would definitely be in my. They're definitely one of my NFC Championship teams. I think is Philly going to be good enough again to make another run again?
no, I mean I would put
Mm,
them in my NFC Championship, you know, group, but I don't think that they're winning it, whatever it is. I'm
they feel
sensing
like
I'm sensing the drop. I think and it's not like a drop to the bottom, but I'm sensing
I
a dip from last year is all.
I don't feel necessarily a drop in the team. I feel like Goff is a different argument about Goff is that he's not he's not a guy who wins the big game. That's different than not being as good as you were or being a good quarterback. It's like, do you really rely like Patrick Mahomes, is going to win a big game,
Hmm.
right? And
Or at
I don't
least or at
feel
least put up like that fighting, like, you know what I mean? Whether he wins it or
exactly.
not, it's going to be down to the second.
An intangible that I don't think Jared Goff has, and I think that's the difference with him. I mean, he's a good quarterback. He's a Pro Bowler now, but I think there's that little intangible piece that he doesn't have where I'm much more likely to say that team could probably go, you
Exactly.
know, 13-4 again and have home field again and get to the NFC Championship game and then a mystery team out of whoever, the Bucks go in there and beat them, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, so listen. Here's my thing. I that's
Yeah.
perfectly eloquently put. You're right. That's what's missing with Jared Goff. That's the sparkle that's
Mhm.
not there. He doesn't make the amazing play, and he doesn't win the big game. He's just a
And he
steady quarterback.
and who has a chance for having a bad turnover at a bad
But who also can't really move. I mean that's
point.
also working against him. But my point is, when he doesn't win the big game, I think this is like too talented of a team for them to keep. The new offensive coordinator comes in here. There's going to be very few places to point the finger, is all I'm kind of getting at. This is a good offensive line with a lot of skill position guys around him. This is a good defense. It's going to be hard to start. How do we get better? I mean, eventually you're going to have to land on, is Jared Goff not going to put us over the top? And I think that they're going to have that conversation. And maybe they decide that that's not the issue, but that will be the conversation when they don't win the big game soon. Because this team is too good to
It,
not.
it's just really hard to go grocery shopping for that intangible to take you over the top. There's just not many of those guys to replace someone like him.
That's true, but oftentimes, when you're in this position, and quarterback's insane, right? But
Hmm.
when you're in this position where you have a team like this is where you can trade away the future for that last thing to put you over the top. So
Well, remember he has a no trade clause, so you can't trade him. So you're gonna
no,
have
but
to
you
park
can
him.
trade picks for a person.
Yeah, yeah, but you're still gonna have him, his contract, and his presence in a
I know.
locker
Yeah,
room on
yeah,
your team.
yeah. So what? You have Kirk
I
Cousins
mean,
and Michael Penix in Atlanta right away. I mean, these things happen.
right, but you're able to get Cousins. Well, I mean, how long is? I'm looking at this contract here. 1, 2, 3. So we don't. This is not even a conversation for 25. This is talking about next year.
Yeah, of
So
course. I
then it's
mean,
all then you're talking only a couple of years you have to deal with it. If they decide it's him, I don't know.
if yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, like what else is it gonna be at this point? Like what else can you get better at, or like
Well,
how many
well,
more bodies can you throw at this?
yeah, but if you go 13-4 each year and you lose in the playoffs, like the Browns never thought about dumping Bernie Kosar because they were going to the NFC AFC Championship every year and they couldn't beat Denver. I think it's very hard to make that switch to win one game. And with the money we're talking about too. If he's someone that underachieves and this team is like, damn, this team this team has so much talent, they couldn't even win a division. Or,
It really wouldn't
that's a
be
different story.
insane for them to cut him in 2027 though. At the end of 27. No, yeah.
No,
Actually, it
no.
wouldn't be insane for them to cut him in 27. I mean, the cap hit is 55 million, but if they cut him, the cap hit is 30 million. I mean, the Jets are paying Aaron Rodgers 14 million, and he
Oh,
was
I could certainly see
45. You know what I mean?
I could certainly see that discussion in 3 years for
Yeah,
sure. But
yeah.
but but from his level of performance right now, and if that level of performance stays roughly the same, and they're roughly the same team. They're winning about the same in the regular season. They're doing about the same in the I personally think it'd be very hard to move on from a quarterback from this to say we need someone, and you have to find that guy who's going to be it. That's hard. You're not drafting a guy to say come in, okay, you're in year two, be that guy to take us over the top.
But see, that's the thing. Like, because it's so hard to find that thing, you're looking at timing windows. So like it's a $30 million hit to get rid of Goff in 27, but if that's when the guy is available, then you just pay Jared Goff 30 million to not be on the roster because that's when that's when the guy is available. Whether that be a
Yeah.
draft pick, which would be a little insane. I don't think that's going to be the case. Or a trade of picks for a quarterback on a team that's miserable or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know what the situation is.
The problem for the Lions is that Goff is too young right now. If Goff right now is 33, I
Yeah,
think these decisions are a lot easier made. I
sure.
mean, you're in your window right now, and then it's easier to make that transition forward. But the problem is he's only 30 now, so it makes it a lot harder to pull the trigger on that.
I mean, I guess the Goff decision comes down to this. What is X quarterback on this Lions roster, and what is Jared Goff on any other team's roster?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
But
mean?
remember Jared Goff now. He went to the Super Bowl with the Rams.
Yeah, early on. Yeah.
So he went to another team and went to, and they didn't even go to the Super Bowl, but they went to the championship. I mean, they were still for a long stretch the best team in the NFL this year. So
This year,
he,
yes.
yeah. So he has kind of entered that question already. What is Jared Goff on a different team if you
No.
take him off a Super Bowl team?
No, no,
Super
no,
Bowl.
no, 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 no. That's not answering that question. That was like his first year in the league, under Sean McVay, and then there was nothing in between. It wasn't actually his first year in the league, I don't think,
Yeah, that
but
wasn't his first year.
but it was under his rookie contract, and it was with
Mhm.
Sean McVay, and they were saying how innovative it was because they were snapping the ball really quick, and in that way,
Right.
because Sean McVay could be in his ear the whole time, and then when they stopped doing that, it was like suddenly he was awful. I mean, let me just ask you this: what's Jared Goff on the Giants roster?
What is Jared Goff? We aren't the we aren't the dregs of society if he's on our roster last year
Correct.
or the year before.
Right.
Are we a playoff team? Probably not with the issues on defense and different things. The offensive line being what it was too. Probably not a playoff, but they're not like an incompetent offense that can't do anything.
Right. Well, I mean this year though. I'm not talking about last year. This year, this roster, the Giants roster now, Russell Wilson versus Jared Goff. It's kind of, I don't know.
I would think not. I think I would be much more optimistic that we could be competing for a wild card than with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is in that decline. We're concerned about Jared Goff.
It sure is, but he's coming from a higher spot on that decline. I think that he's worse than Jared Goff right now. I'm not trying to mince
Yes.
words here. I'm not trying to
Yes.
do that. What I'm saying is I don't see this massive gap. That's all. I don't. Both guys can't fucking move. They get all screwy when their timing's off. Russell Wilson throws a better deep ball. But Jared
But
Goff is a little bit better on his timing in general. He's better throwing over the middle for sure.
and also I think Jared Goff might be a more amenable. I'm a little nervous still with Russell Wilson, just with the office politics that he plays, and a lot of that.
Definitely. It's not something we
Which
talk about a lot, but yeah.
which could be something that could, for a team that if they start off slowly and all the heat, he could be a problem. Where I don't think Jared Goff is that type of personality.
No, no, no. I think if anything, Jared Goff has like that same like non-existent like DJ-ish personality.
Eli,
Eli,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I think like Eli was a little bit more of a goofball, but he knew how to play like the media, like
Hmm.
just play nice. Don't say
Right.
anything stupid. Don't make a highlight of yourself. But like I think he has like a personality. I think people like him. Whatever.
Yeah,
I'm talking out of my ass because I think people like Jared
that's
Goff
fine.
too.
That's why we discussed this in mid-June.
Yeah. Nevertheless, this is a loss. I don't feel good about this.
Yeah.
I don't like this team is insanely talented, and playing them in Detroit. The only way we win this is the Sunday before Thanksgiving. The only way we win this is if Detroit is looking past us to the Thanksgiving game, which I am assuming that they're playing.
We've done it for 80 years in a row, so I'd say they
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Um,
But I think they have a really good coach, and I think he's a coach that.
it doesn't
You
do
know,
that. Yeah.
No, I don't think so at all. I think I think he's a fantastic coach, and I think it's like, let's take care of business. And I don't think the culture of the team right now is thinking Thanksgiving is that big of a deal. I think it's treated like a normal Thursday game as opposed to, I'm going to start watching film early because it's Thanksgiving and this game's so important for us.
No, agreed. Who are they playing on Thanksgiving this year?
Question?
I'll pull it up. Sorry. Green Bay. So you know what? That actually it's a forget the fact that it's Thanksgiving and the culture of it all. It's just that it's a game that's 4 days after, and it's a division game, and it's going to be a good team. I could see possibly an alternate reality where this game is not a loss in Penn because of that. Maybe.
I could see this in a ballpoint pen as opposed to a magic marker, if you're saying.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
But I am not getting the confetti to throw around the house before we go away for Thanksgiving. No.
Yes, your traditional Thanksgiving confetti. I guess with the parade, you're not far off.
Tradition like no other.
All right, so that's going to do it for this episode. Next week we will be back, I guess, at the same time, right? I don't know if you've got anything spectacular going on.
Nothing next week. It's just summertime.
Yeah.
And
All
who
right.
do we have? Who we look at next week? We got at New England, the bye, which we should probably win, and then Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and then Minnesota, and then Minnesota.
Yeah. And
Juicy team here.
hopefully some stories about minicamp. We'll see if there's something some eye-opening stuff. Maybe we talk about something other than Mike Kafka still calling plays. Um,
The best thing for me is there's no news coming out of it because to
that's
me
a good point.
nothing good comes out of it. Either somebody gets hurt, there's a controversy, someone didn't show up, whatever. To me, if it's like no news,
It's
I
good
will have a
news.
shit and grin on my face.
That
Yeah.
is that's a Just Giants staple comment of the spring. We've
No
been
news
saying
is good news.
no news is good news. We've been saying it since 2017, I think, right?
Lordy, lordy,
Insane. All right. So that means that next Tuesday you'll see us go through the next couple of games and the bye week on all the usual spots: iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And we are also
Woo!
on Twitter as well at @football_Grump, at the Cranky Fan. And I will be on a number of episodes with Bobby Skinner for Giants Nation Pod that are upcoming in the next couple of weeks. So
I might even make I might even making a guest appearance on there coming up soon.
how about
You,
that?
you never know. I don't know. All I
Um,
could say is check your mail for that.
and make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow the Giants Nation Show on YouTube and Twitter and all other socials. All right, until next time, let's go
Go
Giants.
Giants.